Okay. So we start by taking refuge and generating bodhicitta, doing the four immeasurables and the severed limbs. So what you try to visualize, because as I said, we're not aware that the Buddhas are here all the time, that their energy is here. This is why we start to visualize them. And then all of a sudden you start to feel the connection and maybe the support that you get. Also, like, as I said, you train, you learn, whenever the situation gets quite tight, to take refuge instead of going, oh shit, why has it happened again? You know, so that's why, and then you think that the Buddhas are there. So in the face of somebody that you respect, when they're really present, you behave totally differently than when you're alone or when you are only with people that you don't respect. So respect is a great mind that protects us from doing negative actions. Yeah, so this is why. So you visualize, again, put down the texts and really try this. I know some people say, I can't visualize. Yeah, you can't visualize the Buddhas because you're not used to it. Now, again, just this very simple thing, close your eyes, visualize the entrance door, or visualize your bed where you're at home, your bedroom. Can you see it? Did it take a long time for it to appear? What do you think? No. Or your favorite shop, you know, where you go shopping every day. How does it look? It's very present. Why? Because you're exposed to it all the time. So you're not familiar with Buddha images, so then therefore that is why it's so difficult for us to visualize. So then just as best as you can, you visualize, what shall we do? Maybe just Shakyamuni Buddha. And you have an image of him sitting as a statue or the tanka. And you try to make it three-dimensional, a rainbow body filled with light, dynamic, alive, not just a statue or a picture. And you give that image, you give it like all the compassion and wisdom that you would like to have, like the perfect compassion, perfect wisdom, perfect skills to be able to help beings, like really knowing what to do and being able to do it and not being afraid. Like one of the attributes of a Buddha's mind is fearlessness, because they know how things exist and they know that everything has causes and they know that everything is just labeled or merely labeled. So you try to, whatever, you know, you think, okay, he's there, I can't feel him, but he's there. Then if you're used to do the like so-called like what traditional visualization, so you would, you know, you have the lineage lamas of the extensive of the method. You have it on the right side of Shakyamuni Buddha, the profound view on the left side. Behind him, all the lineage lamas of the tantric lineage. And then around him or underneath him are the tantric deities, then all the Buddhas of this eon, the Shravakas, the Pratyekas, then then come the Dakas and Dakini, and then Dakas and Dakinis, and then the protectors. And also you put, of course, you put all your teachers, your living teachers, you put them kind of a little bit below Shakyamuni Buddha. So, but don't try this if you've never done it. This is for the ones who should know how this is done usually. Why do we do so extensively? Because it really sharpens your mind. Because you have to hold that visualization. You can't let it go, otherwise you totally lose it. That's what it's for. It's just a mind training. To remind us of the path, also to remind us of our goal, but especially to sharpen our concentration. Okay, so these are the objects of refuge. Then around us you can visualize your father at your right side, even if he has died, your father from this life. The way you remember him, your mother at your left side, so there's the two principles, male and female, that a Buddha or an awakened being has unified, it's method and wisdom, yin and yang, male and female. And again, what is the point of visualizing these people? They are very strong objects to create karma with, positive or negative. And they have given us the thing that we value the most, is this body. This body is not from us. Your ego has not created the body. It's a man and a woman coming together, a sperm and an egg. And then I know that quite a few people hold grudges towards their parents because they have not been treated in the right way. But on the Bodhisattva path, it is essential that you work with these grudges and think even those really terrible parents, in one other lifetimes, they were good parents, and to see the suffering of them. It's not so much fun to be an abusive parent. So why be angry at them? But I know it's a very, very strong thing. So it seems to be a protection, but it's not. You just keep damaging yourself. So then just go over this a little bit in a kind of neutral way and intellectually, and don't force yourself to dissolve the anger or the aversion or feeling hurt and all this. Just be very gentle with that. But know that at one point it's possible to dissolve these negative feelings, because we do have a very strong connection with people that have given us this body. And then around them, we put those people that we dislike, we put them in front of us, so closer to the Buddha, that we think, especially those, may they attain enlightenment very, very quickly. Slowly, slowly, we let go then of our, not such thoughts of revenge, but emotions of revenge. They should suffer. No, let them attain enlightenment very quickly. Let them be happy so that they can stop harming others. Then people we trust, people we like, we put them behind us. Usually we're only concentrated on them to be of benefit to them. So for this time we put them behind us. And then around us all Mother sentient beings of the 6 realms, the Bardo beings, form and formless realms. They don't have form, but we just imagine that they're also there. All beings of what is called samsara, numberless. And then we think we're leading them in taking refuge. So again, refuge is a mind state. It's the being fed up of circling in samsara, being under the control of these negative emotions again and again and again and again. This time we have a very good existence, even though we think it's bad. But if you look at the other existences, my gosh, we're so fortunate. And most of the time actually in samsara we spent in the lower states. This is why we're not enlightened yet, because we haven't had so many occasions. So please try again, try to generate a feeling for this, a sensation. Don't stay up in the head. So you look at these sentient beings in the lower states, because this is what in the verses what will come now. The suffering of the hell realms, of the hungry ghosts, of the animals. Absolutely no chance to practice the Dharma. Very difficult to come up from there. And open your heart towards those beings. I have been there numberless times as well. I don't want to go there anymore. May I be able to kind of empty the hell realms, the hungry ghost realms, the animal realm, the human realm, the gods and demigods. That's generating bodhicitta. Alone, I cannot do this. First, I have to get out also, but with the intention of liberating all these other sentient beings. Like that, your mind becomes very wide and very spacious, because you have to think really big. Big in terms of number, big in terms of result. And when the mind is spacious, there's natural self-confidence and very little fear and nervousness. So then the actual words that you're saying are not so terribly important. The words are here to support that attitude. I'm sick and tired of samsara. So many other beings are suffering, having no idea how to get out of it. In this one lifetime I have now, I have the chance to create causes to be free from samsara. This very strong urge wanting to get out of it. No panic. No panic. But an energy that makes us understand this is a dangerous place, even though I'm in the human state, but this human state will end. And I can plunge very, very, very easily. Because still I don't have control over my negative emotions. They're actually controlling me. And then the trust in the methods of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. So that's a joyful mind. I have found a cure, I have found a method. Something that appeals to me. Something that I find logic, reasonable, if that's the case. If it's not the case, then I don't know what to do. Then you have to find your own refuge. If you're a Buddhist, that's the case. You find these methods valid. And it's the method that will free us from all suffering, and on top of it give us the skills, the compassion and the wisdom to free others as well. Or at least to show them how to free themselves, to inspire them, to be able to guide them. So this attitude has different factors. There's the trust, there's the urge to be free from suffering, and to compassion, that I'm doing this for all other sentient beings, who at one point have been a very kind mother to me, very kind father, brother, sister, friend, whatever. We're so dependent on others. We cannot abandon them and think they have nothing to do with me. And the best way to repay that kindness is generating bodhicitta. I'm going on this path over Bodhisattva. I will attain Buddhahood in order to guide them, in order to lead them to the state of total liberation and full awakening. And then if you still need to, then you can say the words. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merit, practicing generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merits of practicing generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merits of practicing generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. And next page, the four immeasurables. Again, we make our heart really, really big. And we're not just, saying these wishes, but also kind of a promise that we will engage in being able to bring this about. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. So we generate love. It would be so wonderful. They were all happy. May I lead them to the peerless happiness of liberation and awakening. And for that, at the moment, I cannot do that, but for some, I can give them worldly happiness, which is okay. Otherwise, they cannot practice. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Again, this thought, this world is a terrible place. For us, more or less okay. But we are quite a minority. For most of the beings, it's really, really difficult to survive. May they be free from that suffering and the causes of suffering. I will lead them to a state which is free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So again, we come back to reality. At the moment we're not able to do that because we can't even liberate ourselves. But the promise but as much as possible, I will not contribute, I will not add to their suffering, and be as kind and as helpful as possible. It's a decision that you make, an attitude that you take. And then the joy of knowing that everybody has the potential to attain liberation and full awakening, because everybody's mind is pure by nature. These afflictions, or the kleshas, they're dependent arising, very much depending on thoughts, and especially depending on the grasping onto a really self-existing, autonomous I or me. And that ignorance or that wrong view can be eliminated through wisdom, by seeing reality as it is. All we are is a continuous flow of body and mind, constantly changing. There is no essence inside of there that remains the same. And we're just a tiny, 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 tiny part of this whole universe. This whole universe where all beings have Buddha nature, or the potential to be free from suffering. If the word Buddha nature is too religious. Those sentient beings never be separated from the happiness that is free from all suffering. And then again, the promise to practice equanimity. That's the first step when you practice bodhicitta. Not to be too close to our friends, not to be too involved there, and not to have total non-interest in many, many beings that we call strangers, and also not to have aversion towards the people that we think are it's good to dislike them. To see that we're all the same. Everybody wants happiness, nobody wants suffering. Nobody wants to be harmed. It's a fact. We're all the same, and we all suffer, and we all get harmed, and we all grasp onto this I that seems to exist from its own side. We all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for others. Then you go to page 16, where you have the 7 limbs. So I will stop after every line, and then you will try to generate the mind of devotion or appreciation. If devotion is too strong, see, we're very devoted to our negative emotions, by the way. So don't think devotion is only something to the right thing. Yeah. Or if you're addicted to some kind of substance, you're very devoted to that substance. You protect it very much. So the mind of appreciation and devotion. So we still have this merit field, it's called, like the Buddha's in front of us. So this is where these kind of thoughts are directed to. Then the mind of offering and so on. So first one, preferentially I prostrate with body, speech and mind. A happy feeling that you have found a method that you trust, or at least have interest in. A method that living beings around us are living these things, so they show us it's possible for a human mind to develop that strength and that courage. you don't have devotion to the person, you have the devotion to the qualities of that person, so you feel inspired. I present every type of offering, actual and imagined. So in your visualization, you fill the whole universe with these wonderful, exquisite, highest quality offerings. Whatever you think is good. And you don't just make it one flower. You make it oceans of flowers. Again, it's to widen the mind, because when we visualize big like this, the mind becomes very spacious and we notice it has no limits. So oceans of flowers, oceans of delicious drinks, oceans of perfumes, food, sounds like music, lights, incense, and so on. Then the mind usually kind of becomes quite happy because we just give. And also it's very happy because it doesn't have to spend anything. We create a lot of merit just by visualizing. And we learn then to give, actually, unlimited. Not holding anything back. So it's just, again, it's just the mind training. And then you can think about your negative actions. And you go, I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginning this time. So with this, there is the wisdom factor of really knowing doing negative actions is destroying my happiness and the happiness of all others that I come in contact with. And on top of it, it postpones my enlightenment. So it postpones also the enlightenment of others that I could guide and lead to that state. So it's a sense of regret, a sense of I have to be more careful, a sense of I want to be more careful. And abstain from doing negative actions. Then again, usually the mind plunges because we feel guilty and ashamed. So then we rejoice. I rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. So create that mind of joy, of being a good person, doing good things, being helpful, being kind. Again, please try to meditate. Try to generate these minds, these attitudes. They're not in your notebooks. They're in your heart, where you can feel them. I rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. So we look at the good things that are being done in this world. So again, you could be sitting there, absolutely nothing happening in your heart. So you have to think about something that you find good, so that you experience the feeling of joy. Maybe you think about your teacher, I don't know. Maybe you think about your precious human rebirth. Maybe you think about your neighbor that doesn't harm you and is even helpful. Anything. Wherever you see causes are being created for happiness, you rejoice. Joy is so important on your spiritual path. And then the requesting, because otherwise they stop teaching if we don't show interest. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. So if you have a master, then ask now in your mind. They're constantly connected to us. Again, we just don't know it. First of all, say thank you. Thank you for taking upon themselves the hardships to again and again and again teach us, even though we're quite lazy. Never giving up hope. Never giving us up. That's a Bodhisattva. So you see, for us, we think, oh, this is difficult not giving up others. But then, when it comes to us, we would be very disappointed if our teacher at one point says, no, you don't have to come back. You're hopeless. How would we feel? Then we understand how damaging it is to give up Bodhisattva attitude. When we see how we would feel if our teachers would give us up. So ask them to have a long life. Please, please, please live long. And come back again and again and again. Until everybody is fully awakened. And not just come back, but please, please, please always show these methods. Teach these methods. Try to get that in contact with that yearning for the teachings. If that yearning is there, you never get tired listening to teachings. And also then it will be much less difficult to make decisions what you want to do, what you want to spend your time with. But if that yearning is not there, again, everything becomes very, very difficult. Boring, heavy, tired. And then at the end, in order to kind of confirm to ourselves why we do this, I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. So that should be a joyful mind. A mind that has something to dedicate. You see, if you dedicate something at the end of your practice, you need to have something to dedicate with. So this is these positive minds that we now created. These causes that we dedicate. If it's just blah, 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 you dedicate blah, blah, blah. And obviously that's not going to bring a big result. I dedicate my own merits from generating these 7 minds. And those of all others, people here in the Gompa that generated those minds, other people in the world who are doing good. I dedicate all the causes for awakening that have been created now to the great enlightenment, which means enlightenment for all sentient beings.